We have in today a PC Engine GT. Like most of the consoles in the 80s and 90s, this is a handheld version of the original desktop console, the PC Engine. This one's come in because it no longer works and the customer wants a full recap and a modern LCD installing. So this is the PC Engine GT. In America it was the Turbo Express, I believe, I always get it wrong. And the GT is for the handheld version. And these are the games that you play. So we got things like Space Invaders, R-Type, you got Bonk 1, 2 and 3, that's a really good platformer. Got tons of games. Again, like most of the systems back in the day, nothing would work without a game inserted and of the right region. We can see with batteries in, this one gets a backlight, you can see it there, but nothing at all works. No audio, no game load. So before we do the recap and the screen upgrade, we first want to actually get this working. Taking a look inside, we can see the main motherboard and components is here, and in the front shell we have the original screen, speaker and buttons. Let's just power this from bench and test with a known working front board to make sure the screen is definitely not just the culprit. And injecting 9 volts using a known working screen, we get exactly the same. And if we check out retro6.wiki, you can see I've reverse engineered a ton of the PC Engine GT. If we look at the power circuit, where we're currently injecting is the battery plus, which is this red wire going up to the batteries. And after the batteries it goes to an inductor, and it goes to a fuse and then gets to the switch. A common point of failure is the inductor on the power rail, so this L502, or the fuse. So let's just try and power up straight from the power switch, bypassing the fuse and the inductor. We've got a wire soldered onto the positive. I'll leave the ground here for now. If we have issues with ground, a similar story, we have an inductor L501 that might be the culprit. Let's just turn on with that. And there you go. So we have boot, but we have no audio. So we know there's a bad inductor or fuse, so to be honest we don't need the inductor, it's for noise suppression and it does nothing, but we'll just bridge a new fuse over and then try powering from here again. We'll just chuck on this axial resettable fuse, 1.5 amp should do. So with that known and working and the fuse now re-added, let's test the customer's screen to see if the screen's also fine. And there we go, so that works. The reason the fuse blows is very often the old caps that are dying, and you can smell the fish smell off this, so they're definitely dying, causes too much current to simply blow the fuse. The audio issue, we've tried an external amp and you still get nothing. So that could be the op amp itself, or it could be related to the caps. So I think at this stage I'm just going to give this a full recap. With the board out and the shields removed, we can see all the capacitors we need to change. These are surface mount aluminiums, and you can see all of the electrolyte rotting onto the board. There's the old blown fuse. So every one of these needs swapping out. The customer has sent some in, but they're completely wrong. So this is a cap kit for apparently the Turbo Express, but these are all SMDs, so we won't use them. We'll use our own kit of high quality SMD caps. The technique I use, that I'm sure you've seen many times now, for SMDs is a bit different than most of the caps because you don't want to blow them up, and you don't typically just put heat straight onto a cap. That's not how it works, they explode. But what I do with this is I've got the air set to only 320 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty cool, and 65% airspeed. You want to warm up the board around the caps first, and then when it's ready, and this is only through experience you'll figure out when it's ready, you'll then go more directly over the cap to remove it. And then after about, probably on the initial ones, a minute or so I'd say, which is how long we've been going, these should now be close to, there you go, lifting off, so you can just go over directly at that point. And this is low enough temperature that they won't explode. So that's the way I like to remove them. And then putting them back on, we basically tin the pads with fresh solder and do exactly the same. We'll float them back on by warming up the board first and then placing the cap on. So that's them 3 off first. So to put them back down, we reapply fresh solder, and while it's still warm, clean it with IPA, and there we go. We have a nice clean surface, and then placing them back down is exactly the same as the reverse. Warm up the board first to get these solder joints practically fluid, and then place the component over. That's all the old caps off and the new ones on. And now if we try for audio and turn on, there we go. You can see we have audio coming out of the headphone. I'll check on the actual front speaker as well to make sure that works. So the last step is to wire this LCD driver board in. The customer's going to fit this in the shell themselves, they just want the wiring done. And that's the screen soldered in. We have it connected to the RGB. We've got a little headphone amp to test. So let's see if this is any good. And there we go. That looks about right. I think we have to bear in mind as well, this is just a TFT panel. So you get different colours at different viewing angles. You can see how it goes black. But that looks pretty good. So now let me just quickly show you how to add a little bit of strain relief onto this, because the customer's going to be handling this and moving it. So I've already added a strain relief here. So no matter how much the customer tugs this wire, he's not going to break the solder joints. You'd have to tug to effectively break the entire wire. So let's just do the strain relief this side as well. It's nice and simple. We just get some electrical tape. We place it over all the wires. So we're just going to place it over here. And this is really maintainable, so you can just peel the tape off to, service this. Now what we want to do, the important part, is to fold the wire back on itself, like so, and add one more layer right over the top. Now what we've done there is, if you tug, you're going to first have to tug all of this tape off, then you're going to have to tug the second layer of tape off before you ever put strain on here. So now the customer can safely handle this, and if they accidentally tug, or pull, you're not going to snap these wires. You're going to have to really mess this up to snap the wires. So that's it for this one. The customer is now going to fit this into their own shell. So that's the console back up and running. The audio's fine, I've tested it in the front board. The original screen the customer's having back, and I want to keep my game. That's it for this one, guys. I'll catch you in the next.